At my billionaire grandfather's funeral, the air riot of perfume, power, and greed. My cousins clutched deeds to his $3 billion empire, the yacht, the penthouse, the company itself, while I sat frozen, staring at a crumpled envelope with my name scribbled across it. "Open it, Sophia." Ryan sneered, his voice slicing through the silence like a knife. Trembling, I tore the seal, praying for something that might prove I mattered. Instead, laughter exploded around me. Inside was nothing but a single wrinkled plane ticket. Rome one-way coach departing in 48 hours. Megan held up her phone, recording my humiliation. Uncle Richard leaned back, smirking. "At least he gave you something cheap." Their jeers echoed in my ears. But deep inside, I felt something shift. My grandfather never gave meaningless gifts. He played long games, hidden ones, and sometimes the smallest envelope carries the biggest secret. The mahogany pan-led room inside the Rochester Country Club was suffocating, heavy with the scent of cigar smoke and anticipation. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above us as though mocking me with their brilliance. My Uncle Richard sat at the head of the table, his Rolex glinting every time he adjusted his cufflinks. Beside him, Aunt Linda dabbed her eyes with a silk handkerchief, though her expression betrayed not grief, but hunger. My cousins Ryan and Megan looked like they were posing for the society pages. Ryan, already practicing his CEO smirk, leaned back confidently in his Armani suit. Megan had her phone angled just so, whispering to her followers, "Wait until you see what I get." The family lawyer, Mr. Harwick, cleared his throat, his voice deliberately calm. "According to Mr. William Carter's last will and testament." He opened a thick leather folder. My stomach tightened. "To my son, Richard Carter, and his wife Linda. I leave the Hampton estate and the investment portfolio ending in account 9,471. Linda gasped theatrically, squeezing Richard's arm. "Oh, Richard, the Hamptons, just as we hoped. To my grandson, Ryan Carter, I leave Carter Shipping Industries along with its operational assets on the condition that he maintains current employment levels for at least 1 year." Ryan shot to his feet, his chair screeching back. "I knew it. I won't let you down, grandfather." His chest swelled with pride as though the crown had already been placed on his head. Harwick continued unfazed. "To my granddaughter Megan Carter, I leave the Manhattan penthouse on Central Park West and the yacht Serenity currently moored in Newport." Megan squealed, her voice echoing off the wood-paneled walls. "The penthouse and the yacht. This is insane. I need to live stream this." She flipped her camera toward me, her grin sharp. Finally, Mr. Harwick's gaze fell on me. I felt the room still, anticipation thick as smoke. "And to my granddaughter, Sophia Carter." He hesitated for a heartbeat that felt like a lifetime. "I leave this." He reached into the folder and pulled out a small white envelope, edges worn, my name written in my grandfather's shaky handwriting. The silence lasted all of 2 seconds before Ryan barked out a laugh. "Are you serious? An envelope?" Megan cackled, already raising her phone again. "This is too good. Poor Sophia. What did you expect? A kingdom?" Richard smirked, adjusting his tie. "At least he remembered you, dear. A little keepsake, perhaps." My hands shook as I took the envelope. The paper felt fragile, almost like it might disintegrate if I gripped it too hard. Slowly, I tore it open. My heart pounded in my ears. Inside was a single plane ticket. Rome, one way. Departing in 48 hours. The room erupted. "A vacation pity gift," Megan sang, her camera still rolling. "A coach ticket," Ryan sneered, snatching it from my hands. Before I could react. "Wow, Grandpa really went all out for you." Linda's voice dripped with fake sympathy. "Perhaps it's his way of saying goodbye. A little trip to clear your head." I stood, forcing myself to meet each of their eyes. My cheeks burned, but something deeper burned hotter resolve. My grandfather never did anything without a reason, I said quietly. If he wanted me to go to Rome, then I'll go. Ryan chuckled. Sure, Sophia. Waste your sick days on a trip to nowhere. Richard shook his head. Sentimental, just like your father. Emotion has no place in business. But I held the ticket against my chest. Their laughter rang in my ears, but underneath it, I heard something else. My grandfather's voice echoing from our Sunday chess games. The best moves, Sophia, are the ones your opponent never sees coming. And with that, I knew I was going to Rome. That night, I sat alone at my kitchen table. The envelope spread open before me. The plane ticket looked almost absurd. Against the scratched wood. Rome, one way, 48 hours. My bank account was barely enough to cover rent and groceries. And here I was, staring at a ticket that could shatter what little stability I had. The silence was broken by my mother's voice. Sophia. Grace. Carter stepped into the room, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled from a 12-hour shift. She looked at me with eyes that had weathered storms I couldn't imagine. I held up the ticket. This is it. This is all he left me. My voice cracked. Ryan gets the empire. Meghan gets the penthouse and yacht, and I get this. She sat down across from me, her hand reaching for mine. Do you really believe your grandfather would humiliate you without a reason? I wanted to believe. But the sound of Ryan's laughter still echoed in my head. Everyone saw me as a joke today, Mom. I was humiliated. Maybe that's what he wanted to remind me. I'm not part of their world. Her grip tightened. No, Sophia. Your grandfather never played games without purpose. You know that better than anyone. How many times did you play chess with him? How many times did he tell you, don't look at the obvious. Look at the move no one else sees. Tears burned my eyes. But what if I'm wrong? What if I go to Rome and it's just nothing? Just another way for them to laugh at me. Mom's voice softened, but her eyes were firm. Then at least you'll know. But if you don't go, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering. And I'll tell you something your father once told me. Sometimes trust means stepping into the unknown, even when it looks foolish. Her words sank deep, echoing the very lessons my grandfather drilled into me over years of Sunday afternoons bent over chessboard. I could almost hear his growly voice whisper, real trust is when you move before you see why. I stared at the ticket again, my hands trembling. Logic screamed to tear it up, to keep teaching, grading papers, and living my modest life. But another part of me, the part that remembered the rare smile my grandfather gave me after I'd once refused to sacrifice everything just to win, knew this wasn't random. I exhaled shakily. Okay, I whispered. I'll go, Mom smiled through weary eyes. I knew you would. The next morning, I walked into the principal's office at Lincoln High. Dr. Washington raised her eyebrows. 3 days off out of nowhere. I've never taken a sick day in 6 years. I reminded her. My voice was steady, even though my heart raced. She sighed. Fine. But don't make this a habit, Carter. You're one of the few teachers who hasn't burned out. I nodded, clutching the approval slip like it was a passport to another life. Back home, I packed lightly. 2 changes of clothes, my passport, and my father's old leather journal. The journal was filled with his scribbled notes, chess puzzles, and reminders he used to leave me as a child. It felt like carrying a piece of him on my journey. That night, lying in bed, I replayed the day, the snee, the laughter, the sting of humiliation. But then I pictured Ryan drowning in his new empire, Meghan flaunting her penthouse, Richard toasting to his Hamptons estate. They thought they'd won. I clutched the ticket to my chest. Grandpa, I whispered into the darkness. If this is another one of your games, I'll play. And just like that, my decision was made. Rome was waiting. Detroit Metropolitan Airport was buzzing with its usual chaos. Families arguing about luggage, businessmen glued to their phones, children crying as if the world had ended. I sat alone at gate 32, staring at the flimsy boarding pass in my hand. Rome, one way, seat 32, B, middle row. The same humiliation I'd felt at the funeral crept back into my chest. I whispered to myself, this is insane. My phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. Ryan, bon voyage, Sophia, send us a postcard from Coach. Followed by 3 laughing emojis. My jaw clenched. I turned the phone face down. If I responded, it would only feed their cruelty. When the boarding call came, my legs felt like lead. I dragged myself down the jet bridge and slid into my cramped seat. To my left, a man in a business suit was already snoring. His tie loosened like he'd given up on appearances. To my right, a woman claimed both armrests, watching a movie on her iPad without headphones. The volume blared tiny dialogue into my ears. I shut my eyes, clutching my father's old journal. Why am I doing this? Then I remembered my grandfather's voice. Grally but steady from one of our last chess games. Power isn't about what you hold, Sophia. It's about what you're willing to lose. I could almost see his wrinkled hands moving the knight across the board. Most people can't see past sacrifice. That's why they never really win. The plane lifted off. Detroit, shrinking into a patchwork of lights below. I pressed my forehead against the cold window. Fine, Grandpa, I whispered. I'll trust you, even if it makes me look like a fool. All 8 hours later, we landed in Rome. My body HDHD from lack of sleep. My hair frizzed and my mind felt foggy. Immigration was a blur. Purpose of visit? The officer asked in clipped English. I hesitated, then gave the only honest answer. I don't know. He frowned, stamped my passport, and waved me through, dragging my carry-on into the arrivals hall. I was swallowed by chaos. Families reuniting with tears. Chauffeurs holding up signs. Tourists looking lost. My pulse quickened. I had no plan, no hotel, no clue what to do next. Then I saw it. A neatly printed sign that read Sophia Carter. A tall man in a tailored black suit stood holding it. His sharp features softened as his eyes landed on me. He stepped forward. Miss Carter. I froze, clutching the handle of my suitcase. Yes, that's me. Relief washed over his face. Finally. Please come with me. My heart pounded. Who are you? He gave a slight bow. My name is Lorenzo. Your grandfather arranged everything months ago. I blinked, stunned. My grandfather. But he's dead. Lorenzo's eyes held mine, calm but firm. Yes, but before he passed, he gave me instructions. He told me to wait for you here. The world tilted. My mouth went dry. What exactly did he tell you? Lorenzo smiled faintly, and his voice lowered as he spoke. 6 words that would unravel everything I thought I knew. Your grandfather prepared everything for you. In that instant, exhaustion and fear melted into something else, anticipation. I tightened my grip on my suitcase. Whatever game my grandfather had set in motion, it had only just begun. The Mercedes purred as Lorenzo steered us out of the airport and into the Roman evening. The city fell away quickly, giving into rolling hills stitched with vineyards and olive groves. I pressed my forehead to the cool glass, watching the landscape unfold like a painting, surreal in its beauty. Where are we going? I finally asked, my voice thin. To Montori Estate, north of the city in the spine hills, Lorenzo replied matter-of-factly. I frowned. Estate. My grandfather never mentioned owning property in Italy. He never even talked about coming here. A faint smile tugged at his lips. He came every September for over 40 years alone. The words lodged in my chest. 40 years. My grandfather, the man who preached about family loyalty, who never missed a Christmas dinner in New York, had spent decades hiding. This we climbed higher, the road narrowing, flanked by cypress trees that reached skyward like silent sentinels. At the end, wrought iron gates swung open automatically. And then I saw it. The villa rose from the hillside, like something out of a Renaissance painting, 3 stories of golden stone, balconies dripping with ivy, terraces overlooking endless rows of vines shimmering in the fading light. My breath caught. "This is impossible," I whispered. Lorenzo parked in front of massive oak doors carved with intricate patterns. Before I could gather myself, the doors creaked open. An elderly woman stepped into the sunlight. She moved with quiet elegance. Silver hair pulled into a simple bun. A black shawl draped around her shoulders. Her eyes, still grey, sharp yet warm, locked on mine. Tears streamed freely down her wrinkled cheeks. I froze. Something in her face was achingly familiar. Lorenzo's voice softened. "Sophia Carter. Meet your grandmother, Sophia Whitmore." The ground seemed to tilt beneath me. I gripped the car door for balance. "That's impossible. My grandmother died before I was born. Carol Carter." That's what I was told. The woman reached me in steady, deliberate steps. She took my hands in hers. Surprisingly strong. Her touch both foreign and intimate. Her accent was lilting. Musical. "Your American grandmother." "Yes. Carol did pass away. But her voice broke. "I am very much alive." I staggered back. "No, that doesn't make sense. My grandfather, he wouldn't." She cupped my face, her tears spilling. He did. Roland lived 2 lives. Mia, he loved your father. But he also loved us. For decades, he carried both truths. Shock turned my tongue clumsy. "So you're my real grandmother?" Her gaze pierced into me. Steady and sorrowful. "Yes, and you are the granddaughter I have waited half a lifetime to meet." I yanked my hands back, anger boiling beneath my ribs. "He lied to us, to all of us. He built an empire in America while keeping you hidden here. How could he do that?" She sighed, her shoulders trembling with both pride and pain. "Because he could not choose. After the war, he stayed to rebuild. We married in 1947. We planted the first vines together. But then America called. He thought he could hold both worlds. He was wrong. And yet he tried." My vision blurred with tears. Betrayal, grief, and something else I couldn't name churned inside me. She drew me gently toward the villa. "Come inside, Sophia. There is so much you do not know, and so much he left only for you." As I crossed the threshold, the air was filled with the faint sweet scent of wine and old wood. My grandfather's shadow lingered everywhere, in photographs lining the walls, in dusty ledgers stacked on the shelves, in the ghost of laughter I had never known. And I realized with a chill the plane ticket hadn't brought me to Rome. It had brought me to the truth. The sitting room was unlike anything I had ever seen. Walls lined with framed photographs, shelves heavy with leather-bound ledgers, and an antique desk polished to a shine. A neatly printed sign that read Sophia Carter. A tall man in a tailored black suit stood holding it. His sharp features softened as his eyes landed on me. He stepped forward. "Miss Carter." I froze, clutching the handle of my suitcase. "Yes, that's me." Relief washed over his face. "Finally. Please come with me." My heart pounded. "Who are you?" He gave a slight bow. "My name is Lorenzo. Your grandfather arranged everything months ago." I blinked, stunned. "My grandfather? But he's dead." Lorenzo's eyes held mine, calm but firm. "Yes, but before he passed, he gave me instructions. He told me to wait for you here." The world tilted. My mouth went dry. "What exactly did he tell you?" Lorenzo smiled faintly, and his voice lowered as he spoke. 6 words that would unravel everything I thought I knew. Your grandfather prepared everything for you. In that instant, exhaustion and fear melted into something else, anticipation. I tightened my grip on my suitcase. Whatever game my grandfather had set in motion, it had only just begun. The Mercedes purred as Lorenzo steered us out of the airport and into the Roman evening. The city fell away quickly, giving into rolling hills stitched with vineyards and olive groves. I pressed my forehead to the cool glass, watching the landscape unfold like a painting, surreal in its beauty. Where are we going? I finally asked, my voice thin. To Montori Estate, north of the city in the Spine Hills, Lorenzo replied matter-of-factly. I frowned. Estate. My grandfather never mentioned owning property in Italy. He never even talked about coming here. A faint smile tugged at his lips. He came every September for over 40 years alone. The words lodged in my chest. 40 years. My grandfather, the man who preached about family loyalty, who never missed a Christmas dinner in New York, had spent decades hiding. This we climbed higher, the road narrowing, flanked by cypress trees that reached skyward like silent sentinels. At the end, wrought iron gates swung open automatically. And then I saw it. The villa rose from the hillside, like something out of a Renaissance painting, 3 stories of golden stone, balconies dripping with ivy, terraces overlooking endless rows of vines shimmering in the fading light. My breath caught. This is impossible, I whispered. Lorenzo parked in front of massive oak doors carved with intricate patterns. Before I could gather myself, the doors creaked open. An elderly woman stepped into the sunlight. She moved with quiet elegance. Silver hair pulled into a simple bun. A black shawl draped around her shoulders. Her eyes, still grey, sharp yet warm, locked on mine. Tears streamed freely down her wrinkled cheeks. I froze. Something in her face was achingly familiar. Lorenzo's voice softened. Sophia Carter. Meet your grandmother, Sophia Whitmore. The ground seemed to tilt beneath me. I gripped the car door for balance. That's impossible. My grandmother died before I was born. Carol Carter. That's what I was told. The woman reached me in steady, deliberate steps. She took my hands in hers. Surprisingly strong. Her touch both foreign and intimate. Her accent was lilting. Musical. Your American grandmother. Yes. Carol did pass away. But her voice broke. I am very much alive. I staggered back. No, that doesn't make sense. My grandfather, he wouldn't. She cupped my face, her tears spilling. He did. Roland lived 2 lives. Mia, he loved your father. But he also loved us. For decades, he carried both truths. Shock turned my tongue clumsy. So you're my real grandmother? Her gaze pierced into me. Steady and sorrowful. Yes, and you are the granddaughter I have waited half a lifetime to meet. I yanked my hands back, anger boiling beneath my ribs. He lied to us, to all of us. He built an empire in America while keeping you hidden here. How could he do that? She sighed, her shoulders trembling with both pride and pain. Because he could not choose. After the war, he stayed to rebuild. We married in 1947. We planted the first vines together. But then America called. He thought he could hold both worlds. He was wrong. And yet he tried. My vision blurred with tears. Betrayal, grief, and something else I couldn't name churned inside me. She drew me gently toward the villa. Come inside, Sophia. There is so much you do not know, and so much he left only for you. As I crossed the threshold, the air was filled with the faint sweet scent of wine and old wood. My grandfather's shadow lingered everywhere in photographs lining the walls, in dusty ledgers stacked on the shelves, in the ghost of laughter I had never known. And I realized with a chill the plane ticket hadn't brought me to Rome. It had brought me to the truth. The sitting room was unlike anything I had ever seen. Walls lined with framed photographs, shelves heavy with leather-bound ledgers, and an antique desk polished to a shine. A fire flickered in the stone hearth, casting shadows across a gallery of faces frozen in time. I stopped in front of a wedding photograph. My grandfather, William Carter, so young, almost unrecognizable, stood grinning beside a radiant woman in a white lace dress. The bride was unmistakably the woman beside me now. Sophia Whitmore. My knees weakened. This can't be real. My grandmother touched the frame tenderly. We married in 1947. He had nothing but a few dollars and a friend's vineyard, but he was full of dreams. I turned sharply toward her. Dreams that came at the cost of lies. She didn't flinch. Yes, he lied. But he also built something honest. Here, something lasting. From the desk, she pulled a thick folder and slid it toward me. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were deeds, contracts, and bank statements stamped with the name Carter Vineyards International. I skimmed the papers, stunned. This is worth millions. 70 million, she corrected gently. The vineyard, the distribution contracts, the estate itself. He built it all quietly, year by year. And he wanted it to be yours. I shook my head, trying to process the avalanche of revelations. But Ryan got the empire. Megan got the penthouse and the yacht. They already won. Her lips curved into a bittersweet smile. Did they watch? She opened an old laptop on the desk, its screen glowing to life. A video file labeled for Sophia waited. My heart thudded as she clicked play. My grandfather's face appeared, aged but softer than I'd ever seen him. His voice was calm, steady. Sophia, if you are watching this, then you trusted me enough to take the flight. Good. That means you've already done something your cousins never could believe without proof. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. You've seen what I left them, he continued. The yacht, the penthouse, the company, but appearances deceive. Carter. Shipping has been hemorrhaging money for 3 years. I covered the losses, but it's about to collapse. The penthouse has 3 mortgages. The yacht leased. The Hamptons estate, 70% owned by the bank. I gave them exactly what they valued. Most glittering prizes with no foundation. Hollow trophies. I gasped, covering my mouth. So, it was all a trap. He leaned closer to the camera, his steel grey eyes locking on mine. But you, Sophia, you never asked for anything. You chose meaning over money. You came to visit me, not to scheme. That is why I leave you this truth. A vineyard that produces 2 million bottles a year, a family that has lived and worked this land for generations, and a legacy that matters. Tears spilled down my cheeks. He paused, his voice dropping. Your cousins will call you within a month, begging for help. Be kinder to them than they were to you. That will make you better. Remember, the best moves are the ones no one sees coming. Checkmate, my girl. The screen went black. I stared at the laptop, my chest heaving. Betrayal, vindication, grief, pride, all crashed inside me like waves in a storm. Grandma Sophia placed a hand on my shoulder. He spoke of you often. Every visit, every year, he said. You were the only one who understood him. I clutched the folder of documents, my knuckles white. Everything I thought I knew about my family had shattered in minutes. The empire they gloated over was sinking. And I, the one they mocked, the one they dismissed, was holding the only real inheritance. For the first time since the funeral, I didn't feel like a fool. I felt like the player of a game whose rules I was finally beginning to understand. 3 weeks after I returned from Italy, life in Detroit resumed its rhythm. I was back in my classroom, grading essays on the Civil War. Though my mind often wandered to the vineyard, to the soft laughter of my grandmother, to the weight of my grandfather's final words, they will call you Sophia. He was right. It happened one night close to midnight. My phone buzzed violently across the nightstand, Blurry-eyed, I grabbed it. Ryan Carter. I almost declined the call, but curiosity clawed at me. I swiped to answer. Ryan. His voice was frantic, stripped of its usual arrogance. Sophia. Thank God. I need your help. I sat up, heart racing. Help from me. I thought I was just the family embarrassment with a coach ticket. Silence, then a sharp inhale. Please don't start. You don't understand what's happening. The company, grandfather's company, it's collapsing. The accountants uncovered everything. Millions in hidden losses. Investors are pulling out. Employees are threatening to walk. I bit back a bitter laugh. So, the mighty empire isn't so mighty after all. He choked on his words. You don't get it. It's worse than that. The bank froze our assets yesterday. Meghan's penthouse was foreclosed this morning. The yacht gone. Even Dad, he's losing the Hamptons estate. We're drowning, Sophia. I let the silence hang. My pulse thundered in my ears. Finally, I said coldly, "And why are you telling me this?" His voice cracked, desperation dripping from every word. Because grandfather left you something real, didn't he? He left you the vineyard. The truth. You're the only one who can save us. Tears stung my eyes, but they weren't of pity. They were the bitter memory of laughter at my expense, the sting of humiliation at the funeral. I let the venom slip into my voice. Do you remember how you all laughed? How you called my ticket a pity gift? How you filmed me like I was some tragic joke? On the other end, Ryan's breathing faltered. I remember, he whispered. Then tell me, why should I help you now? His answer came slowly. Raw. Because I was wrong. We all were. You were the only one who ever cared about him, not his money. We mocked you because we were afraid. Afraid he saw in you what he never saw in us. And now we're paying for it. The weight of his confession pressed against my chest. For the first time, Ryan didn't sound like the smug heir to billions. He sounded like a drowning man clinging to the last piece of driftwood. I closed my eyes. My grandfather's words replayed in my mind. Be kinder to them than they were to you. That will make you better. My grip tightened on the phone. I'll think about it, I said finally, my voice steady. Please, Sophia, Ryan begged, almost breaking. Don't let the Carter name die. Don't let me fail. Before I could answer, another voice cut in Meghan. She must have been on speaker. Sophia. Her tone was different. Stripped of vanity. It's me. Please. I don't care about the penthouse anymore or the yacht. I don't want to lose everything. I don't want to lose our family. I almost laughed at the irony. Meghan, who had gleefully live-streamed my humiliation, now begging for my mercy. You already lost me that day, I said softly. There was silence on the line. I could hear Meghan stifle a sob. Ryan muttering curses under his breath, not at me, but at himself. I ended the call without another word. 4 minutes I sat in the darkness of my room, my hands trembling. A storm of emotions raged inside me. Vindication, fury, sorrow, power. I could leave them to burn in the ruins of their greed. I could finally let their laughter echo back at them, twisted into screams. But then I saw my grandfather's face in my mind, his hand resting on the chessboard as he whispered, "The best moves, Sophia, are the ones your opponent never sees coming." And I knew the game wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. The following week, I stood on the balcony of the Montori estate in Italy, overlooking the vineyards that now pulsed with life. Under my care, autumn sunlight kissed the rows of vines, and workers moved steadily, laughter echoing across the hills. For the first time in my life, I felt rooted powerful, not because of wealth, but because of something real. That's when the call came again. Ryan. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Yes. His voice was quieter. Now, stripped bare of arrogance. Sophia, we're in New York. We want to meet face to face. I hesitated, staring at the endless green before me. If I agree, you come here to Italy to see what real work looks like. There was a pause. Then, almost broken, he said, we'll come. 3 days later, they arrived. Ryan, Megan, Richard, and Linda, but they were shadows of the people I'd faced at the funeral. Ryan's suit was rumpled, his eyes hollowed from sleepless nights. Megan wore no designer clothes, only a plain blouse, her phone nowhere in sight. Richard and Linda looked smaller somehow, their sharp edges dulled by defeat. We sat in the estate's great hall, the fire crackling between us. I let them wait in silence just as they had once made me squirm. Finally, I spoke. You came all this way. Why? Richard cleared his throat. But it was Ryan who answered, because we need you. The company is dead, Sophia. The money's gone. But you, he gestured around the hall. You have something real. You have everything. I leaned forward. No, Ryan. I don't just have everything. I have what matters. And you have nothing because you valued appearances over substance. Megan's voice cracked. We know we were cruel. We laughed at you. We humiliated you. And now we're begging you. Please give us a chance. My chest tightened. Their words were the apology I never thought I'd hear. But forgiveness wasn't so simple. You mocked me, I said coldly. You called my inheritance worthless. You treated me like I didn't belong. So tell me, why should I let you belong here now? Ryan's hands shook. Because we're family, and because I swear, I'll prove myself. I'll work. I'll do whatever it takes. I let the silence hang, the fire snapping between us. Then slowly, I nodded. Fine. But on my terms, their eyes widened. Ryan, I said firmly. You will manage US distribution for Carter Vineyards. Salary only. No ownership, no control. You'll answer to me. His jaw tightened. Pride flaring in his eyes, but he swallowed it. I accept, Megan, I continued, turning to her. You're good at branding, but your Instagram lifestyle is over. If you want a place here, you'll work in marketing. Real marketing, selling a product you can believe in. You'll start at the bottom. Learning the craft from Lorenzo's son. No shortcuts. Her lips trembled. I'll do it. I swear. Finally, I turned to Richard and Linda. Their faces were pale, expectant. You two have lived your lives chasing spotlights and fortunes. You lost them both. I have nothing for you here. Linda gasped. Sophia, please. No. My voice rang through the hall. You will build your own lives. Modest ones. Perhaps, but honest. That is your redemption. Richard lowered his gaze, shame softening his features. For the first time, I saw not a predator, but a tired man who had finally run out of lies. I stood, the crackle of the fire, filling the silence. This is not revenge. This is justice and mercy. Grandfather wanted me to be kinder than you were to me. I'm offering you a chance. Don't waste it. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Ryan rose, bowed his head slightly. Thank you, Sophia, for giving us more than we ever gave you. Megan wiped her eyes, whispering, I won't let you down. As they left the hall, I felt the shift deep inside me. The girl they had mocked at the funeral was gone. In her place stood a woman holding not just an empire, but the authority to decide who was worthy of it. And for the first time, they weren't laughing. They were listening. The sun was melting into the horizon, staining the vineyards in shades of gold and crimson. I sat on the terrace of the Mourner estate, a chessboard sat between me and Uncle Osto. The pieces gleamed. In the fading light, each move deliberate, measured. For weeks, I had immersed myself in this life, learning the vineyard, the soil, the rhythm of harvest. Megan had surprised me. She rose early, walked the fields with Lorenzo's son, even dirted her hands, pruning vines. Ryan, though still stiff with pride, was learning humility. He sent me updates from New York. Spreadsheets filled with projections, always ending his emails with, "I hope I'm doing this right." My mother, Grace, had moved into the guest house, brushes and paints finally in her hands after decades of sacrifice. For the first time in years, she looked alive, vibrant, and me, I was no longer the girl holding a crumpled envelope at a funeral. I was the woman who had discovered a hidden empire, a hidden family, and more importantly, a hidden strength within myself. Osto moved his rook. "You're distracted," he said gently. I smiled faintly, pushing a pawn forward. "I was just thinking about him, about grandfather," he nodded. "He played long games, hard games, but in the end, he knew which pieces truly mattered." I stared at the board. The Black Queen loomed menacingly, but I saw what he didn't. A path to checkmate in 3 moves. My grandfather's words echoed in my mind. The best moves are the ones no one sees coming. I moved my knight. Osto raised his brows suddenly, realizing. Too late. "Checkmate," I whispered. He chuckled softly, conceding. "The board. You really are his granddaughter." I leaned back, my eyes drawn to the bottle of wine on the table. The label reader 2024 inheritance in my grandfather's handwriting scrolled beneath for Sophia, who understood. I picked it up, running my fingers over the glass. He gave me more than land, more than money. He gave me the truth of who he was and who I am. Osto's expression softened. "And what will you do now?" I gazed out over the rolling vineyards, the land that had outlived secrets, lies, and greed. "I'll continue. For him, for us, for the family that still believes in something real." The evening breeze carried the scent of grapes, earth, and promise. I thought of the funeral, the laughter, the jeers, the humiliation. And then I thought of this moment, the quiet triumph of knowing I hadn't just inherited a fortune, but a legacy that could never be faked or stolen. My grandfather had played the longest, most ruthless game of his life. And in the end, he had chosen me as his final move. I looked at the chessboard one last time, then at the bottle of wine, glinting in the dying light. My voice was steady, certain he won. But so did I. The wind whispered through the vines as if carrying his voice back to me. "Checkmate, my girl." And this time, I didn't feel like the overlooked granddaughter. I felt like the true heir. Not to his wealth, but to his wisdom.